I think the current economic climate has definitely heightened the risk of going concern on a lot of our clients. 12 months ago, we're obviously going concern assessment is not new. It's something we do on every audit, but perhaps 12 months ago it wasn't a significant risk area, because the client may be trading healthy profits, it's churning along and it's doing quite well. And at the time we couldn't really foresee any other factors that could come in to actually derail them from that path. Whereas now, with the credit crunch, especially with I guess some of my automotive clients, you can tell it's really hurt them in the last 12 months. With people not being able to get finance, especially on the dealerships, not being able to get finance to buy the actual stock. So those external factors definitely, I guess, gets considered when we're planning the audit, to make sure that we actually want to focus on certain areas, especially going concern, if going forward, whether they have sufficient cash flows to meet their obligations. That's really been quite key on a couple of my clients this year, looking a lot more closely at management forecasts, making sure we're happy with their assumptions, making sure that all the external factors that are relevant have been actually considered by management, and that they are actually putting forward plans to address those. So I think we are being a lot more vigorous in our approach to testing going concern, but obviously not because we weren't doing the work previously, but because now the risk is higher, so we actually have to do more work to make sure we're comfortable with that. The team that's actually out there at the client may do the initial information gathering, so might be obtaining the actual calculations or documented support for going concern. And then it is probably typically the manager and the partner that would discuss that information with the senior accountant, determine if it's sufficient to answer our questions. But most of the time it requires some further discussions with management to actually, especially for the manager and partner, to actually understand thoroughly what management's plans are before we can really come to a conclusion.
Our role at the client is to understand their ability to continue as a going concern. I mean, going down to the bare basics, our audit report says that they continue at least for another 12 months as a going concern, so it is an important thing to consider. And one of the key things, especially in the current economic climate, is understanding perhaps their forecasts of their revenue going forward. It can be quite difficult to be able to make assumptions, going 1 year, 2 years down the track. So it's understanding where management believe that they can continue to make their revenue and sustain the margins that they have 2-3 years down the track, which in turn impact on the opinion we can give in the current year. The different things we might consider are their budgets and their forecasts going forward, but then also looking at the history that they have of being able to, of the revenue that they've created historically, but then also looking at perhaps different contracts they might have in the pipeline, which help substantiate what level of revenue they have going forward. But then also the macroeconomic factors which may impact on their specific industry. So linking back to the construction industry, where there's a specific downturn, you might not expect them to have the same level of forecasted revenue going forward. But then alternatively, in an industry such as, I don't know, some sort of necessity which consumers are purchasing, it may not have the same impact on them. The manager's role is to review whilst I might come to a particular conclusion, the manager's role is then to also review that conclusion and form their own conclusion on that. They might have other information which I might not have considered yet, which they consider is a bit more important, or they may have a different judgment or opinion on a way that I've concluded on something, which, given their experience, they might be more appropriate for the client, and effectively they form their own opinion on it based on what I've presented to them, which then gets forwarded to the partner.